Thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Matt Roberts. I'm the Director of Marketing at MarcomCentral, and I'm joined today with Lindsay Muse with AmeriFirst Financial. Before we begin, just as a couple reminders, this webinar is being recorded, and we will send it out to everyone who's registered. Also, there is a section for you to ask any questions you might have, so please ask any of those during the webinar, and we'll make sure that we'll answer them at the end of Lindsay's presentation. So now to begin, briefly, I just would like to introduce MarcomCentral. MarcomCentral is a marketing asset management company. We provide a cloud-based platform to centralize marketing and sales assets that can then be customized and distributed by sales reps or channel partners, agents, or franchisees, and others. We have clients in almost every vertical, as you can see here, whether they are finance and banking, retail, franchise, manufacturing, healthcare, and others. Our clients also vary in size, so whether that's smaller SMBs to 100,000 plus employee enterprises. You can see some of the logos here. We do have a vast variety of clients. So today we have one of our clients with us, Lindsay Muse, and she's going to present on how they have used MarcomCentral to scale their marketing efforts in a heavily regulated industry. So we're excited to have her here. We're excited for all the participation that we'll have with you guys. And so with that, I'd like to pass over the time to Lindsay.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Muse, and I'm with AmeriFirst Financial. I want to thank MarcomCentral for giving us the opportunity today to present on our portal and how we have implemented it here at AmeriFirst Financial. For those of you that aren't familiar with AmeriFirst Financial is a mortgage lending company. We have about 45 plus branches throughout the United States and about operating in about 10 plus states with adding branches and states on I would say right now on a monthly basis. When I first came to AmeriFirst, the problem that we were seeing within the company is the company was growing very, very quickly, and we were adding loan officers on a weekly basis, adding new branches, and within the new branches that we were adding new entities. So within the AmeriFirst brand, there are, say for example, in Texas, we operate as AmeriFirst Financial of Texas, and in Tennessee, we operate as AFI Mortgage. When we were getting requests for marketing, you know, our poor designers were trying to pull different logos, and we were getting requests from about 350 loan officers with custom requests with all of the different entities and the corporate level that required different logos and disclosures and disclaimers. And with some of the states that we operate in, we have to have license numbers and personal license numbers, and it was getting out of control. And we weren't staying consistent with our branding. Our messages from each custom piece were changing. There was no what I would call corporate branding. We were having trouble establishing the AmeriFirst brand, and that's when we went and sought out Marcom. The problem that we were having from the corporate level was obviously branding and regulatory compliance and all of that, but also we found that our loan officers were having trouble co-branding pieces and weren't able to build and scale their business and their sales. So we wanted to address that as well, being able to create co-branded pieces on the fly. So why we engaged Marcom is, like I said, our brand assets were really disorganized. There was no central place for our loan officers to go to grab logos, to download the right logos if they were creating a promo item. And our custom requests were getting out of control. We weren't staying ahead of creating new collateral because basically we just became order takers. Whereas from corporate marketing, we want to be proactive and be pushing out new stuff, not reactive. Also, our loan officers wanted the ability to edit marketing materials when they needed to within the guidelines of their branch and regulatory compliance. As most of you know, in sales, you might get a call that day from a realtor and they need an open house flyer, and it needs to be timely, and if it was coming through corporate marketing through a request, we couldn't fulfill it, you know, within their ideal timeline. So we found Marcom. We needed to find something that was fast, efficient, easy to use, on demand, and compliant. We can create, our loan officers and sales teams could create collateral within minutes. It housed all of our collateral, whether it's website banners, magazine ads, flyers, logos, a central point for marketing to go, our webinar calendar. And also, when we knew when we were going to launch this, we wanted something that was going to be able to adopt really quickly from the field. Our loan officers and our sales teams have very, very short attention spans. So we were like, all right, if we can bring them in for an hour, let them train them on the portal, how it's going to use, how their login information. We basically wanted something that was almost like a set it and forget it. Okay, guys, this is what you do. This is how you do it. And, you know, forget about the rest. We wanted something that was on demand. Having 45 branches throughout the United States and operating in 10 states, we needed something that was basically cloud-based, on demand. They can log in once they had internet access. And obviously, we wanted something that was going to address our regulatory standards for all of our entities and all of the states that we operate in. So now I'm going to take you into our portal and run through how we set it up in terms of addressing the compliance and the different states and the regulatory issues. As you can see here, this is our portal where our loan officers log on to. And just as a side note, we have only released Marcom for our sales team. It's not something that we have released to corporate employees. It's only for our loan officers and sales officer, loan officers and our loan officer assistants. And how we control that is if they were a licensed loan officer, that's how we control who gets access to Marcom and who doesn't, just because a lot of the information that we have hard-coded in our templates has their NMLS number. So when you log onto the portal here, the way that they can go and retrieve flyers is through the Got Assets tab. And I wanted to run through kind of some examples of how we control the states and the different entities that are within the AmeriFirst umbrella. So right here, when a loan officer logs in, they are going to, some features, they're going to have the option to co-brand or not co-brand. And how we addressed the co-branding for our loan officers to make it compliant is we made sure that all of the agent information down here must be entered into the template. When a loan officer will go on, they'll have to pick what state or team name that they are creating this flyer for. So as you can see here, there's a drop down of the different states where we have branches. So for Arizona, some of the specific information that we must include from a regulatory standpoint is our branch NMLS must be included and our AZBK number must be included. So when we worked with Marcom, we were able to build that information into our templates and build it into that user group. So when a new loan officer was to come on board and we activate their accounts, we create a user group for them where they're licensed or where their branch is licensed. So that's for Arizona. For example, for California, we must include our NMLS and also our CADBO, which differs from Arizona. And so we were able to build that into the back end of Marcom. Getting a little bit more in depth, Pulling the logos for Arizona and California would be the same, but for Texas, we would want to pull our AmeriFirst of Texas, and we were able to build that into our template so that the back end, when the user goes and updates a proof, it'll pull the correct logo for them. Another feature that we did to address compliance reasons is we have hard-coded, this is controlled by corporate marketing, inputting all of the information into the flyer so that this information here is hard-coded down. Because in terms to address our compliance advertising requirements, all loan officers must have, for example, an AmeriFirst email address, as well as an AmeriFirst direct landline number. You know, that's something that's within the mortgage industry where those requirements were held by those states to have that information. And so a lot of times we'll have our loan officers or our sales guys wanting to switch out, you know, their direct number to be their mobile, and that is not compliant. So we have locked that information down, as well as websites. Our loan officers are able to change they're able to have a vanity website, but like I said, that email must be an AmeriFirst email address. So we have locked that information down, and the way that we have gone about it, if we have a loan officer that needs that information swapped out, they'll just send an email to marketing@amerifirst.us, and we have a ticketing system, and then we have the support that will go in and change those. And it's very, very easy, the back end of Marcom, to control all of this. And I'll show you a few examples of some flyers after this as well. Also, when I alluded to accessing the different entity logos and branding, we have made those available for our loan officers on the home page here, and they are able to go in and download which logo they might be looking for. So like I said earlier, we operate as AmeriFirst Financial for the most part, but in Texas, we operate as AmeriFirst Financial of Texas. And then anywhere, I would say rule of thumb, east of the Mississippi, we operate as AFI Mortgage. And then these are also some of our different programs that we offer within AmeriFirst. And so our loan officers are able to go in here and log on and retrieve those logos for whichever entity or whichever area they are advertising in or working with a referral partner. How we control this is when we onboard a new loan officer, at onboarding, they are required to sign a document saying that they will abide by the advertising rules or compliance that the company has set forth in front of them. And it is on them to then, you know, use the logos within those standards. Also, one other feature that I did want to point out on our portal is we have made our webinar calendar available for loan officers on here. That has helped with providing updates, whether, you know, advertising has changed or if our programs have changed. And that's another way that we have addressed some of the evolving regulatory compliance issues within the mortgage industry, is being able to offer webinars for our sales team so that they can go on and take a look here, and, you know, if anything's mandatory, they can register on here as well. When we are adding additional groups or adding on a new state, the back end of Marcom has been great and is very easy for us to adopt into and add new states. So if we get licensed or open a branch, say in Nebraska, we are then able to build out that functionality and put in those disclaimers for those states. And I'm going to run through an example right now of how we have been able to address that. As you can see here, there's two examples of entities within the AmeriFirst umbrella, one being AFI Mortgage and one being AmeriFirst of Texas. So these are flyers that we created, uploaded the template in here into Marcom. It's very easy. We would just create a PDF and assign it in. And for example, when we're creating new advertising market or advertising collateral, we must get their ad approved with the state of Nevada first in order for them to push it out. So sometimes if we have something that we need to really create on the fly and get out, and that Nevada approval is pending, we are able to control it on the back end of Marcom and not make it available for the Nevada group until it becomes available. So we're able to control those states and those groups on the back end of it. So for example, here you'll see that AFI Mortgage, when Josh, our loan officer, logs in, all of his information is going to be coded to AFI Mortgage, and his email address, we operate as a different entity there, is AFI Mortgage. All of that information is then pulled in, so he doesn't even need to worry about any of the stuff not being compliant. We take care of that for him. And if Yvonne logs in from Texas, all of her stuff is compliant, as we've taken care of that as well. We've addressed our NMLS number. It's pulling her correct logo. It's pulling the right disclaimers, all of that. And that's another thing that we're able to do is control the disclaimers for different marketing pieces or for different messaging. Say, for example, we are doing something around a loan scenario and we need to pull different disclaimer language. You're able to build that into the back end of Marcom. Some highlights that we were able to, that have made the implementation and the integration of Marcom very seamless and efficient for AmeriFirst from a corporate level is we alleviated all potential conflicts. When a loan officer would request something for one entity versus another, all of that conflict has come down, and now we just direct the loan officer to say, well, have you checked this in Marcom? There's all of these marketing materials available. We have been proactive on adding new flyers and new materials to our database. Right now, we're housing about 500 pieces on there that they're able to go to. It's helped us increase communication amongst us and our loan officers. Our loan officers can log on and check the webinar calendar. We send out emails pretty frequently when we've added a new piece to Marcom, how they can navigate to get there and what the messaging is. And we also have sent an example along with the email of what the piece would look like for a loan officer and what that customization looks like. Updating it and managing Marcom, the way that we have addressed it is we have pretty much one main user of the back end of it and then a backup. And that person works very, very closely with compliance, making sure, that everything is staying fresh and up to date and very current. And it's very, very easy on the back end to control all those groups or to make changes to say, for example, and a disclaimer, or if we have to update the copyright, year for when we go into 2017, 18, that sort of thing. Marcom has also tremendously helped expand the bandwidth of our design and marketing teams. It has taken them out of the day-to-day creating of one-off flyer here for one person. It has been so beneficial to expanding that bandwidth of our teams, and we're able to be more proactive and come up with new ideas to push out through Marcom as opposed to reactive, and creating the same pieces for the different entities that are, when a loan officer comes in and asks for that versus creating new content. The benefits that it has brought to the sales team, as it's brought customization to the local level for them, knowing that brand standards have remained consistent. And, if we have two offices that are in Arizona and they're both creating pieces, they're both going to be the same. We're messaging out the same look and feel to those markets, as well as, being compliant. We've been able to create user profiles. So all of our loan officers get their own profile, but we've also been able to, if a loan officer is working with a realtor or a referral agent pretty frequently, we've been able to upload those user profiles into their account so that they're not always having to input that information in each time they want to create a co-branded flyer. It's really helped our sales team develop and cultivate additional sales relationships. Like I said, being able to co-brand those pieces down at the bottom has really, really helped. And it is, on the loan officer to input all of that correct information. Marcom has been a simple, safe, and secure portal for us. We've run into no issues. It's a single sign-on through our intranet site. So once our loan officer goes on to get on for the day, to check their loans or to check different data, there's a button within our intranet that takes them right there that's called marketing. It's one sign-on. They don't have to always input their password and username. It's really, really seamless. I cannot stress how effective this tool, Marcom, has been for us as a corporation. We've been able to scale a lot faster with the different entities and different branches that we're bringing on by using those user control groups. In addition, one other thing that I did, two things that I want to point out as a side note is, within sales, you're going to have people jumping around from different, competitor to a different office, that sort of thing. Managing the terminations and deleting a user profile is really, really easy. I mean, most of the time, if we have a salesperson that, is going on or moving on, we need to deactivate their user profile immediately so that they don't have access to that information. It is one click, you delete the user profile, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So that's been very, very, very helpful for us in managing that HR compliant issue as well. So that's the concluding of my presentation today, and I guess we will open it up for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. That was great. It's good to go in and to dive into the tool to see exactly how you guys are using it. So we do have a few questions.
Sure.
The first one here that we have is, how long did it take you to deploy this system? Maybe initially, and then what's the user rate with some of the agents that you have now, or internally yourself? Has the user adoption picked up? What's the time like, or the timeline like for that?
Sure. The deploy date, I believe we implemented it within 45 to 60 days would be about it. It's constantly evolving. So every time as the company is expanding and growing, we're adding different tiles. But it was about 45 to 60 days. The hardest part of it was getting the user profiles and making sure that all of those were compliant, and making sure that we had the right license numbers for the individuals. Right now we have about 340 or 50 users of Marcom, and controlling to make sure that all of the information that we're putting in, that was a little bit of upfront work, because there's always, manual or personal error. And then the user adoption rate has been very, very, very high. And it's definitely increased as the marketing department has promoted it on a more consistent basis. And basically, when we get questions on a marketing piece or from loan officers, we automatically direct them back to Marcom if it can somewhat answer their question or fully answer their question. And one thing that we've done that has really helped adoption is we'll do like 10 to 15 minute go to meetings or go to webinars with a loan officer on a one-on-one basis. And that's really helped because they feel like it's, you know, personalized to them, and that we can run through and show them how to create the different flyers. For example, if they're licensed in Arizona and California, and how to pull those, you know, how to pull those different user groups so that their advertising material is compliant. And one other thing that I did want to mention is one thing that the stance that our compliance department has taken on this is it's on the loan officer to, you know, make sure that they're inputting all of the information. And our compliance department randomly checks about 25% of the flyers that are created. Now, when we upload a new flyer, it goes through compliance and all of that. But, you know, in order to control the co-branding aspect of it, they'll check about 25% of them that are created within the tool.
Perfect. So another question here is, and I'm not sure of this answer for you guys, but do you use a CRM? And then if so, do you use Marcom to tie in or to integrate with your CRM?
We do, yes. So we use Jungo, which is an overlay on Salesforce, which is more for the mortgage industry. And so our loan officers who have elected to be part of Jungo, it's an additional cost here for our loan officers. We integrate their Marcom and Jungo account together. So that's kind of how we have addressed it. And so when a loan officer goes in and creates a flyer and wants to push it out through their CRM, through Jungo, they're able to do that, and the integration has been seamless.
Perfect. Yeah, and from Marcom's side, we do offer integrations with, you know, the majority of the popular CRMs, so Salesforce, like you mentioned, and that's always an issue or a question that somebody wants to ask, but we definitely offer that. Another question here is, what was the training process for you? Was it an extensive training, or do you guys do ongoing trainings? What's the process that you have for that?
Sure. So when we rolled out Marcom a year ago at our national sales meeting, and that was the initial training of it. So it was a required session for all of our loan officers to go to, and that's where we rolled it out. And then we followed up thereafter, you know, offering one-on-one sessions, and then we also offered on our webinar calendar group sessions. And I will tell you this, right now since we onboard so many new loan officers a month, I do hold a webinar twice a month on Marcom and going into creating design. So it's kind of, it's a constant communication training that you will need to do as you onboard new sales people, but that training was required. We are going to be doing another session at our national sales meeting in December on Marcom, a refresher. We built out some functionality, we refined some things. So it is an ongoing process, but we did make that initial training a required one up front. In terms of the cost, it's really, it would be hard to say, but it's how much time comes out of that employee's salary. We've definitely, put money into refining some things and that sort of thing, but I mean, I don't think that it's anything astronomical.
Perfect. Okay. So I only have about one question left, unless somebody types one in before we go. But what are the main metrics that you use on a tool like this? That's something that, is a frequent question when you're purchasing a SaaS platform like Marcom is, what are the metrics that you're using to show ROI? And then what are some of the other benefits that you might have noticed? I know you talked about some of those, but maybe for metrics, what are those that you use?
Sure. So some of the main metrics are we make sure that our loan officers, are logged on. We definitely run reports on how many flyers a loan officer is creating. A lot of times we use it, like we'll have branch managers that will reach out and say, my loan officer's getting, or no marketing support or whatever, and we'll log on to Marcom, and then the loan officer has, created 50 flyers. So it's a little bit of that too. Definitely pulse taking on our sales force and making sure that, they're out there promoting the materials and the flyers. We definitely run reports on, how many loan officers are logging on a monthly basis, and we'll send those to their branch managers. Just as an FYI, these loan officers have logged on, and are creating marketing materials and are, trying to put stuff into the field. But it's a little bit, in terms of the metrics, because the way that the organization is set up is we're providing this as a tool to them. It's really on the branch and the branch managers to, make sure that they're using it or downloading the information. So we run those types of reports. That would be probably it in terms of the metrics. We definitely make sure that all of our loan officers have gone through a training, or, we're in that initial training, we log that. If they're dialing in for webinars, that sort of thing. We definitely, I would say from a metric standpoint, from corporate, we just make sure that the loan officer knows enough to, be dangerous, and knows enough to go in and create their flyers and that sort of thing. So
Perfect.
It's a little bit different in terms of our business model, but
yeah, and that makes sense. It's going to be different for every company, for every industry. So thank you. So right now we don't have any more questions. So we'd like to thank you again, Lindsay, for that presentation. And as a reminder, we did record this. We will send it out to everybody who is registered. And thank you again for attending. And we hope to have you on another webinar. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.